there, welcome to this episode of Author Success Show. The special guest we have today is Manish Bundhun. Manish is a corporate monk who wears multiple hats. He's a human resources leader, an executive coach, a published author with over 20 plus years in the field of human resources and organizational development. He's a holder of an MBA. He also holds a master's in neuro linguistic programming. Currently, he is the Chief Human Resources Executive at Rogers Group, Mauritius. His current responsibility covers 5,500 plus employees over 13 countries and 7 business sectors. His personal mission is to be the catalyst who ignites the spark of transformation in people and is passionate about making the world a better place to work. Let's find out in this interview how Manish managed to write 3 manuscripts within a span of a year. Hi, Manish. Welcome to Author Success Show.
Hi, Jyotsna. It's my pleasure to be with you today for this podcast.
It's my pleasure as well, Manish, to interview you in this show, not just because you're a client of Happy Self Publishing, but also because you're one of those authors who is having this great momentum, right? Most people take years to write a book, but you've finished 3 manuscripts in 1 year. So I'm really curious to know, Manish, how did you decide, or rather, when did you decide that you should become an author?
Well, it started a few years ago. I always wanted to write, to share experience and insights. I think there's one quote that I like that has inspired me a lot. Is from Dr. Wayne Dyer, who said, in a way, don't die with your music still inside of you. So for me, writing is a way to express the music inside of me and to express insights, lessons that I've learned and experienced in a practical and pragmatic way. So it started a few years ago. I always wanted to write, so I started researching on how to write, where to go, how to go about it, and I found it was overwhelming because I felt it was like a mountain, So and didn't know where.
There's so much to share, right?
I kind of paused there, and well, actually, the key insight I have on that is I saw it as a mountain and I wanted to get it perfect. So I spent a lot of time planning and so on and so forth. And yet, my biggest realization from this journey so far, having written 3 manuscripts, 2 of the books are one already published, one is coming out this week, actually tomorrow, speakers, is prioritize progress over perfection. That's my message here on this. Always.
Could you repeat that?
Prioritize progress over perfection.
Yeah.
So as long as you're progressing, as long as you keep writing, you don't need to wait for the inspiration. Keep writing. Even if you've written 1 sentence, 2 sentences that day, at least it's progress. It helps you keep moving.
Sure. Before we talk about your book as such, Manish, you said that you've been writing for a while. So I've seen your articles on LinkedIn. But even before that, you've started speaking your messages on stages, right? So what I'm curious to understand is that you are a very successful corporate professional. You're a chief HR executive at a huge company in Mauritius. So other than all the satisfaction you get out of your work, what is that missing thing that you felt that, that I need to express this through my words, whether it's by speaking or writing? So what was like your aha moment where you felt that, yes, I'm making a lot of impact through my work, but I need to do more than that?
It's a lot to do when you work on yourself. So you work on your purpose and why you're doing what you're doing. So beyond a corporate role, for me, at a point in time, you work hard to climb the corporate ladder, to be successful, to get a good standard of living for yourself and for your family. And once you've reached a certain level, you want to find a way to, how do you impact others? How do you influence others? How do you serve others? And how do you give back? So I'd reached that point where I said, how can I, by doing what I'm doing, help people to grow and to thrive? So, and it's a bit linked with my purpose. My purpose as a person is, I see myself as the catalyst who ignites the spark of transformation in people. So, and I started to express that by writing. It started with short posts on LinkedIn. 3 years ago. So short, regular posts. And the more I started writing, the more I developed the muscle of it. So as you know, writing in itself, just like any activity, is you develop a habit, you develop the muscle of the practice, and I started to enjoy it. So after writing a few posts regularly, around 200 posts in a year on LinkedIn, I said, well, might as well now. Next
Wow.
step is write a book and to reach out more. Yeah.
Right. So writing short posts could be very different from writing a book. So when
Yes.
you were writing Shots of Insight, I have a copy with me right here. It's beautiful. Like I'm so proud of this. So
Thank
uh,
you.
when you decided to write this in the form of a book, you already had a lot of content on LinkedIn. So did you first look at that and see how and saw how can you use them inside your book, or did you have to write everything from scratch?
Well, I used both elements. It worked. So I already had a base to build on, so I didn't have to write from scratch, and that helped. So it helped me to move forward with already the content that I had created. So in a sense, everything that I had written, I had been able to save it, to store it, and to record it in a way that it's not lost. Because
Hmm.
when you post on social media, after a couple of months or a couple of years, you don't find the post again. So it's not no longer stored. So
Hmm.
I kept those records. So I used that as a base to build on. So actually, the work wasn't lost. And then following the biggest lesson for me was when I got the feedback from the editor of how to shift from short storytelling, from short posts to actually a more insightful way of engaging and storytelling. Then I realized I had to rewrite 60% of the book
Hmm.
within 3 weeks. So that was the main lesson, and it helped me for the second book actually, in terms
Right.
of writing style, and from the lesson that I learned, how to make it more personal, more engaging, and more connected. And So yes, there was a content first, and then which was revisited,
Hmm.
rejigged to be the format of a book with stories and examples.
Yeah, so I was just going to ask about that. Could you share some tips on how to make a typical LinkedIn kind of post more engaging so that it fits into the book format?
So always start with a hook, you know,
Hmm.
because again, people, if you're writing a book with short um, chapters and so on, so you have to find a way that the chapter is interesting for people. So start with a hook.
Hmm.
Secondly, use stories, impactful stories about others, about people, or if not, about yourself. So what you went through, what were the outcomes, and what did you learn from it.
Hmm.
Um, so at the end of the day, people want to connect with people. People connect with human stories. People connect with um, the humanity in us in terms of
Yeah.
what we've gone through, our challenges, our lessons learned, our achievements, our wins, as well as our losses. So,
Hmm.
and that kind of human emotional connection is what makes a difference, actually.
Absolutely. So, what I really love about the
And,
book, Manish,
and
yeah, go ahead.
sorry, just there was one last, the third point. So again, the power of three. So a
Hmm.
hook, stories, and a call to action at the end.
Right. At the end of
So
every chapter?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, at the end of a post, just like you have a post, you have a call to
Hmm.
action in the post. In a sense, at the end of a chapter, you need to leave the person with a kind of a call to action, what they're going to do about it.
Yeah. So the good thing about this book, especially, is a reader can actually open any chapter and get some insight out of it. They don't have to necessarily read like 35 chapters before moving to the 36th. So
Yeah.
I call this the numerical framework, where you have like 101 things and you put it
Right.
together. But though you have a numerical framework, it's not organized. I mean, it's not randomly put out there, but you have a system. You have put it into three modules. So what was your thought process behind the structure of the book?
So the structure was, how do I put together what I've written and so that it makes sense to people? And I wanted to find a way to connect everything in terms of why I'm writing this book and how this book can be useful. So that's why I call it shots of insights, because we live life through shots. Shots are small experiences, lessons learned, and so on. So in small shots, just like you're taking a shot of vodka or shot glass. So we consume experiences like that. And so that's the point of each chapter being short of around 2 to 3 pages maximum. So the structure was, again, using the power of three. So 3 parts. I divided the book into 3 parts: live,
Yeah.
learn, and lead. So how do you live better? How do you learn better? And how do you lead better? And then I organized what I had written in terms of chapters under these 3 headings. Yeah,
Got it.
that's a
Yeah.
bit the the structure of it and the organization. And I found putting it in 3 parts helped actually give it some sense.
Yeah. Sure. So, Manish, you did not stop with the first book. Immediately, in fact, while we were doing the publishing part of the first book, you already, right? I'm
Mhm.
curious to know how does your writing process work? Like, how do you do this as a habit? On a daily basis, do you write, or do you do it on weekends? How does it work for you?
Actually, I write regularly.
Mm.
I write every day, if not every 2 days, and also write during the weekends, so mornings mainly. So I've developed a ritual. In fact, one of the things which helped me to kickstart the first book was I use, and it's one of the chapters is "Don't Break the Chain." It's a
Mm.
story from Jerry Seinfeld. So how he became one of the best comedians is every day he would sit down and write a joke or a
Mm.
funny story, even if he didn't have any inspiration. Even if one day he wrote 1 page and one day he wrote just 1 paragraph, or one day he just wrote 2 sentences, at least he kept writing. So
Mm.
he didn't break the chain. So at the end of the day, you use a calendar, a visual calendar, and every day you've been able to achieve it, you put a cross, and at the end of a couple of days, you'll find a very nice chain linked up in red. And
Mm.
that kind of helped me and spurred me on using that methodology to start writing, get it in my muscle, develop the habit and the discipline, which then once you cross 100 days, 101 days, actually, you kind of develop the habit. So I wrote for 130 days on at a go,
Wow.
regularly, every day actually, and it helped. So then from there, I developed the habit, and so
Mm.
I've kept writing every day, if not every 2 days, and every weekend.
Sure, great. So do you actually type it out on your computer? Is that how you write?
Yes, yeah.
And do you have like an agenda that, okay, today I'm going to touch upon these two topics? Or do you go into your writing zone and then you decide what to write for that day?
Again, it's fully permeable in the sense that some days I plan in
Mm.
advance. I'm going to write about this topic if it's something that I've researched a bit, or else other days it's more spontaneous based on what's happening, what I feel in the moment, but also what I've
Mm.
noticed. For example, one thing I plan to write tomorrow is I'm going to write a post on it on LinkedIn on the belief of being having a champion mindset instead of a victim mindset, so a creator
Mhm.
mindset. There's a story of a Ukrainian high jumper who won the gold medal.
Oh.
And only a few days ago, she had left her country after spending 3 days on the road to move to Poland to move away from the war. And then she competed a few days later in a sports event, and she won the gold medal. So that's a story of she could have competed in it with a victim mindset that
Mm.
her war and so on and so forth, but then she chose to overcome that, and so that's something that I plan to write tomorrow actually, because it's
Yeah.
contextual to the.
Exactly. So you mentioned about research, right, Manish? So probably you've read about this story in some news article and that would have inspired you. So I see authors work in two different ways. One is they have a personal story, and to validate that, they go and do some research to say that, this is exactly what somebody else also did. So that's one way of researching. The other way is you find something interesting in the news, like what you just mentioned, and that is something that really connects with you, and you decide to write on that. So which of the two happens to you more often?
I tend to say the second one because I
Uh-huh.
tend to observe. So the outside in perspective, there's so much we can be inspired by in terms of the news around us, the people around us. You get inspired and you learn from, for example, your kids. There are so many things, and when you start to connect the dots and you start to watch for the signs or the flags, you find a
Mm.
lot of things coming up which are insightful stories that you can relate to, which you can turn into something worthwhile writing about.
Mm.
So it's as if the source of creativity doesn't come from me; it's from my environment. I just pick it up, and then from there
Yeah.
I give it a twist and use it. So it's a bit like Tai Chi. You use it.
Right. This is something very, your perspective is very different, Manish, and I'm really glad that you shared this, because most people today believe that news is bad, news is negative. Let's not look at what's happening around us. But what you're saying is keep your eyes and ears open. There could be so many inspiring stories around us, and you could pick the right ones and give it a voice by sharing it in your work.
Yeah.
So you must be reading a lot, Manish. So how do you keep track of all these stories? Because a lot of people, like, they see something, they get inspired, but they don't act upon it because they forget. So do you have
Yeah.
a way to take notes whenever you come across an interesting story?
Yes, I take notes on the notes application on my mobile phone. It's always
Simple.
so your phone is always with you, right? So you just need to capture a few points, a few lines about it, and then from there you save it for some other time that you're going to write. You can put in your planning, and then from there you start to write about it when you feel it's time, when you're ready for it. The other thing that I wanted to share, what you're mentioning here, Josna, is indeed there's so many things that we can learn, you can pick up from the news. You can give it a twist. There's always a story behind it that which will inspire people. And for me, it's my philosophy, my way of approaching it is my message. Well, my focus is to diffuse the message, is to share the
Mm,
message. It's not about me; it's about the message. So as long as the message I know is going to be valuable for people, for
mm,
me, I'm going to write about it and see how it connects with people.
sure. So you share a lot on LinkedIn other than writing your books. And when I speak to some authors, what they tell is that, should I be sharing so much on social media? Because if I share everything on my blog or everything on my website or on LinkedIn, then who's going to read my next book? So has that thought ever crossed your mind?
No. The quick answer is no. Why? Because if you write a lot on social media, it gets you noticed. It helps develop a brand, which makes you credible and consistent. So that's one. And secondly, people are so bombarded by information, by reading news and insights that you might read something today, and 1 week later you'll have forgotten who wrote it, where it came from. So
Mm,
where was it? And they'll go and look for it. They might not even find it. I've had people who've contacted me who said, "Oh, I remember you wrote about this thing once, this subject. Remember that? Can you share that with me? What you shared on that?" So you see, people will recall that you wrote it, but they might not
yeah.
recall what actually you wrote.
Yeah.
So
Book
at
helps.
the end
Like,
of the
you
day,
can just send them to Amazon and ask them to
yes,
pick a copy of your
yeah.
book.
So that's what I said. Well, it's chapter 55 of Shots of the Insight. So you go to chapter 55, you find it. So
Yeah. I also believe that, Manish, because I saw the kind of following you have on LinkedIn. There are thousands of people following your work, and I'm sure many of them would have also become readers of your book. So, could you share some actionable tips for authors as to how they can leverage platforms like LinkedIn? What are some of the daily practices, probably, that you have, which has led to so many people following you on LinkedIn?
well, on LinkedIn, it's simple. You have to be a creator. So you
Mm.
create valuable content. By valuable content, I mean messages which are insightful that people will stand to learn from it. Which messages which also share your own perspective, either your own perspective or your own stories. So that people connect with. So that's one. So post regularly. Second, comment in other people's posts. So
Mm.
participate, like, comment and share. That's number two. And third, I would say is messages that you get. So, for example, while people engage with you, always respond to those messages. So
Mm.
that's how you develop a consistent brand on, because at the end of the day, it's about brand building. You're building your brand. And actually, people don't buy the book, people buy you. People buy
Yeah.
your brand and your ideas, So the book is just one means to that, to further your purpose and your mission. So that's what I would advise in
Mm.
um the other dimension on social media and relating it to a book is what helped me in my own story is LinkedIn helped me to find people who would write testimonials about the book,
Mm.
be it on Amazon or also praises for the book that
Before
featured
the
in the book
launch. Yeah.
before the launch. So that helped me a lot.
So did you
I
just ask them? Did you identify some people and ask them to write the testimonial?
Yes. Yeah. I shared a manuscript first in
Mm.
PDF, and then they read it, and then they gave their testimonials. So that helped
Mm.
because without LinkedIn, I would not have been able to connect to so many people around the world in different parts of the world in different industries. So and
Yeah.
that helped. Yeah.
Right. Could you tell us a little bit about your upcoming book? I think by the time this podcast is live, it will be available on Amazon. The book is called Disruptor. So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, so Disruptor is a different one compared to Shots of Insight. Shots of
Mm.
Insight is more self-help in short, as we said, in short chapters, 101 chapters. Disruptor is more a corporate book, corporate in the sense it relates to leadership and management as well as culture change and skills development. And the title is Disruptor. The subtitle of the book is Nine Abilities of Agile Leaders.
Mm.
So, and the book is essentially is about how do you cope with change, a world which is in constant disruption. So instead of being disrupted, how do you become a positive disruptor yourself? So how do you anticipate change? How do you ride the wave of change? And how do you develop the qualities which will help you to thrive in a
Mm.
world which is increasingly impacted by disruptive change? That's what the
Great.
book.
I also look at it as a very hot topic for a keynote speaker, right? I'm sure a lot of corporate conferences would love a topic like what you've discussed in Disruptor. So, is it a conscious effort to take your speaking career to the next level as well?
Possibly, yes, definitely. I believe so. The idea is to again share the message, which will help a maximum of people. So, be
Hmm.
it through a book or through keynotes, the idea is to diffuse the message.
Yeah. Because it's not a coincidence that almost all great speakers around the world are also authors. So, but I can't talk about it in the other way. Like, not every author is a speaker. So, I would personally love to see more authors using stages as a platform to amplify their message. So, what could be your message to all those authors out there who've still not explored the avenues of speaking on stages?
I think these are two skills. Definitely, there's the message and how do you
Hmm.
deliver the message, right? And people, the audience, will connect with you as a human being based on how credible and how authentic and genuine you are. So, and I know it's part of my journey as well. I was a bit shy to put myself up front to connect until I decided, it's time to step up
Hmm.
as part of my personal growth agenda. I wanted to reach out more. So reaching out more means expanding energy more, being more present, being more visible, and being comfortable with that, and sharing messages clearly. So I joined Toastmasters
Hmm.
to hone my public speaking skills, to reach out more clearly and in a more concise and compelling way, with a clearer message. I did public speaking training as well as a way to complement the book writing and the messages that I share in the book. So, and it goes hand in hand. So,
Hmm.
if you want to go in that direction, join Toastmasters as
Hmm.
well as give yourself the opportunity, invest in yourself by investing in a public speaking course.
Yeah, that's, I think, solid advice because speaking is a very different skill as compared to writing. So, Manish, what I understand is every author may not have that inborn skill of being a great speaker, but it's definitely a learnable skill. If they put the time and effort, they can become a great speaker as well.
I fully agree. I've seen it in Toastmasters as well, that we're not born naturally as great speakers, great orators. It's a learned skill. And even the most introvert of people actually become the best of speakers through practice, through feedback. For me, the idea of taking a public speaking course, as well as joining a speaking club like
Mhm.
Toastmasters, it's about helping you find your voice, you know, find your voice in terms of who you are and how you express yourself, how to craft your message,
Mhm.
and also how to grow through feedback as you practice.
Yeah, sure. So recently, Manish, I saw a very heartwarming message on your LinkedIn profile where where you shared a beautiful image of your son who has written a book. Like he's 6 years old, right? And he
Yes.
wanted to write a book similar to Shots of Insight, and he doodled something very beautiful. And he actually also wrote about the things that he likes, right? So how did you feel when you saw that?
I must say I was very touched by it because the story is he told me he wants to write a book, and I said okay. 1 week before that, I said okay, when you grow up, we can write a book, and that I went to work. He went to school. 1 week later, he shows me his little doodle that he has created, and it's just not one page. It's a couple of pages.
Mhm.
The way he's done it is he's cut it. I think he did it as part of a school activity, and he wanted to develop it further. So, and there are a couple of illustrations in it. Do you like, which you can choose? For example, I find it very nice and inclusive. So, do you like chocolate with milk? If you say yes or no, and then you turn, you can play with it. So, do you like milk with your cornflakes? Do you like a garage for your car? And so on and so forth. So, and actually, he's been telling me he wants to create a book now, and let's do it together. So that's my next plan, is to
Wow.
probably create a children's book with him. So that's part of his dream project now. So let's see how I can help him do that.
This is so
We've started to
amazing.
write the script now, actually.
Wow. I think as parents, with or without our knowledge, we are constantly having such an impact on our kids. So
Yeah,
if we understand that, I think we will all strive to be like better people because our kids are constantly watching us. And you're
yeah,
such
they're
a good
constantly.
example of good parenting.
Yeah, they are constantly modeling what we're doing. So, and
Yeah.
it kind of makes us aware how to lead by example.
Hmm.
So, and also, I think the kids are today are very conscious because they're so connected, they're so aware, and it's one way for them to express their creativity, and it's our role to be able to nurture that and and encourage them.
Yeah. So true. So, Manish, when you decided to finally publish the book, Shots of Insights, and your subsequent books also, with the kind of network you have, you can easily approach a traditional publisher and get the book published. But instead, you chose to self publish, and you also decided to work with Happy Self Publishing. So, I'm curious to know, why did you make that decision?
Okay. Actually, I made that decision not to work with a publishing house as a way to disrupt, as a disruptive model. I
Hmm.
see. So the more um, my feeling is the traditional model is still a lot of work is done by the author, but for not much that the person gets in return.
Hmm.
So and I wanted to explore that area of going through the whole journey myself, working on it, and getting the fulfillment that I've worked on it, I've done it, I've achieved it. So, and I found the journey much more fulfilling in that sense. So that's one why self-publishing. In that way, it makes it easier and more simple.
Hmm.
And the second part, working with Happy Self Publishing, it was mainly through reference. I got a
Yeah,
very positive reference about you and your team from Neeraj Shah, who's a good friend of mine.
and
And
mine too.
yes, so, and he's a great guy, a real gentleman and a role model. So, and anyone he will recommend and advise, I will blindly follow and work with that person as well. So, and I must say, I've not been disappointed. I've been very pleasantly surprised and very happy to collaborate with Happy Self Publishing. on the journey. So I started as a someone who doesn't know anything about publishing, about writing, and the accompaniment stage by stage at each step and each milestone has been very fulfilling and very positive for me.
Right. And how is the feeling of hitting the bestseller charts on Amazon like?
Um, well, it's out of this world, you know. So you kind of you feel you've really achieved without actually the power of the big publishing houses behind you. You know, so it's like a bit like David versus Goliath. So it's a feeling of achievement. The more so that we did it ourselves without
Mm,
putting big means and resources and big publishing houses behind it who use their muscle to drive sales, you know,
yeah.
and
And I'm
to
excited to do it again with the next book as well.
yeah, I'm sure. I hope we'll be able to achieve that, but I'm sure we will be able because if your content is good, your message is good, and it's been
Mm,
crafted properly, there's I don't see why you will not succeed. You know.
absolutely. Thank you, Manish, for your kind words. So, what would be your final word of advice to all those authors out there, or rather aspiring authors out there, who have a story or message inside of them, but something is stopping them from going ahead and writing it? So, what would you tell them?
Okay. Um, I can share from my own perspective, you know, is really being aware of your limiting beliefs. The first question you need to ask yourself is, are you ready to put yourself out there? And the first thing is putting yourself out there doesn't mean that it's you who is out there. It's really about putting your message out there. So that's the
Mm,
first reframe. It's not about you, it's about your message. And the more powerful a message you have, the more you owe it to people to
mm,
write it and to publish it, because it's a calling actually, and
yeah.
not everyone gets that calling. So follow that calling, follow the message, and you'll see things will work out. So that's one. Second is get comfortable with being visible, with being seen, and with being heard. So, and it's important. And you will be pleasantly surprised how much people will connect, because people connect to stories of other people and humans that they find relatable. So, and the more you're yourself, you don't
Mm,
need to try to be like the what I would say, trying to fit a mold,
mm,
to fit a role model. It's really about being yourself. Who you are, how you turn
yeah.
up, and what you have to share is what people will connect with. Yeah.
Very well said, Manish. So, finally, where can people find out more about you and your books?
So they can find more about me on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, so definitely there. And then also working to create a website where I'll have all the books that are published on it compiled. At the moment, I just have one website, which is shotsofinsights.com,
Mm,
which features my first book. And as Disruptor comes out, then definitely will be one web page, Bundhun.com, which is my surname, which
mhm.
will then host more details about me.
Awesome. Thank you so much once again, Manish, for being on Author Success Show and sharing your shots of insights with all of us.
Pleasure is mine, Josna. It's been a pleasure talking to you, and always insightful to engage with you. Yeah.
Thank you.